Welcome to Cracked Open, a podcast about life, love, loss, and the truths we discover along the way. Together, we'll explore the struggles that shape us, the lessons we carry, and the hope that keeps us moving forward. This is more than stories. It's honesty, it's healing, it's real. Let's get started. And now your host, Glen Nunes.
Hi, welcome back to Cracked Open, episode 3 of the series. Today, I want to talk about something that the world is starving for. Episode 3 is going to be on compassion. This is a good one, and it's very, very powerful stuff here. But I want to just, again, thank you. Very, very appreciative of all the positive feedback and the calls and the texts I've gotten and the stories, and I'll talk about a few coming up. But it's just been a great ride here, and I'm hoping to do a couple of different style episodes coming up. I do have a couple of guests coming in the studio. As I said, when I do these live in the studio, we will be doing them with video, so you could put a face to the name or the name to the face, whatever, how you want to word that. And we have a couple of really good first 2 guests are going to be awesome. I've confirmed one. I haven't confirmed the second one yet, but let's just dive right into this. So, compassion. Compassion isn't just feeling bad for someone or tossing out, that's too bad or whatever. Compassion is really deeper. It's seeing someone hurting and then having the desire, the motivation to actually do something about it. So the dictionary, it defines compassion. Let me get my notes here, as sympathetic pity and concern for the suffering or misfortune of others. But I like this one better. Compassion is another one too. Compassion is a profound, active feeling of concern for the suffering of others, coupled with a strong desire to alleviate that suffering. So think about the definition. It's pretty deep. When I was like, wow, this is really cool when you really learn what the dictionary says about it. So the last part of it's key. Like compassion, it moves you to act. So that's the difference. Compassion is like not just saying, "Oh, that's too bad." It's actually moving in that forward motion to act. So I always try to do these in little segments or sections so I don't go down too many rabbit holes, because I've gotten all positive feedback, and I know I do double negatives, and I stutter, or I say the same thing over and over, and that's just who I am. And I do these raw, and I've said it from episode 1, no editing, not yet, at least. I want to keep them like this, and I just go through it, and it's take 1. That was going to be the name of this, actually. I was going to call it Take 1, because I do these pretty much raw and straight. But in the Bible, we just want to talk about the nature of compassion. So in the Bible, compassion comes from the Hebrew word womb. Believe it or not, W-O-M-B, womb. Think about that one. The same place that a mother carries her child, it's that deep, like instinctive care and tenderness. That's what the Hebrew word for is for it. It's just crazy. So God is called compassionate over and over and over in the Bible. He doesn't just watch us suffer. He acts. He rescues. He provides. Jesus mirrored that. Through his whole ministry. So healing the sick, feeding the hungry, teaching the lost. These are all like things that that were biblical and that we read through the Bible. So Matthew 14:14 actually says, when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and he healed their sick. So you see how it works into action. So how about the parable of the Good Samaritan? It's the same. 2 religious leaders passed the beaten man on the road, but the Samaritan, an outsider, stopped and cared for him and paid for his recovery. That's compassion in action right there. It can't get any cleaner than that. And then Acts 9, there's Dorcas, a woman who spent her life making clothes for widows and the poor. And when she died, the widows showed the disciples the garments that she had made, proof of her compassion, stitched into every piece of that fabric. And this is actually an example here of prayer. Lord Jesus, you are the same God who looked upon the widow in Luke 7, and you were moved with compassion. You didn't wait for her to beg. You didn't ask her to prove her faith. You stepped into her story and you brought life where death had taken hold. So I ask you to look, at sorry, I ask you to look at me the same way. My heart feels like the widow's heart, empty, broken, without hope. But Lord, above all, I ask you to move because you're compassion, not because I deserve it, not because I prayed enough, but because you are merciful and good. Surprise me with your grace, the way you've surprised that widow. And Jesus, if your will is different, then give me the strength to bear it. Give me the peace that passes understanding, the faith to keep walking, and the trust to know that you never waste a single tear. I love you, Lord, but I love I love her, Lord, but I love you more. Do with me what brings you glory, and if it be possible, let that glory be shown into a miracle of love restored in your name, Jesus' name, amen. So that was an actual, like I said, that was an actual example of one of the prayers that I wrote down. I have in my notes. It was a personal prayer of something I told you I will talk about my personal experiences on this all these podcasts. So that was some. I didn't add everything. Like I told you, I'm not saying names on here. I'm not going to call people out or whatever. Um, Unless I'm reading notes from a story that of someone that it's a person that I have to say their name. But that was an actual prayer, something that how I prayed. And when I saw that, when I always go to the Bible and I read about that, I'm like, wow. So I asked him pretty much for compassion on me. So it's kind of just linked how you can pray when you intertwine it with, I guess that's a good word to use with scripture, or when you go to the, you go, that's my go-to prayer. I always say that in my podcast. But so let's go into like the next section or segment, or whatever you want to call it. I call it a segment, but self-compassion. Okay, now here's a piece we forget. Compassion isn't just for others, it's also for ourselves. Self-compassion doesn't mean pity. It means treating yourself with the same care that you'd give to a friend who's hurting. Psychologists actually, I tell you, I research all these topics that I'm working on. When I topics that I do these podcasts on. Psychologists actually say that self-compassion is tied to what's called learning goals rather than performance goals. Okay, so that means like self-compassionate people, um, they grow and they improve for their own sake, not to impress anyone. Okay, so self-compassion it's actually powerful to be compassionate on yourself. So, as I said, I got some little notes here. Research shows this. This is some research that I pulled off the internet. People who practice self-compassion are more happier, more satisfied, and have better physical health. They suffer less anxiety and less depression. And here's the big one: they bounce back stronger from life's blows. Christopher Germer, his name's this guy Christopher Germer. He's a Harvard psychologist. He outlines 5 different ways to build self-compassion. I wrote these down. One is comfort your body, take care of yourself physically. Second is write yourself a letter about your pain. The third is to encourage yourself the way you'd encourage a friend. Practice mindfulness. Accept the bad with the good without judgment. Okay? And then the last one is nurture your spirit. So I've had to lean into this, that myself in some of the stuff I've gone through in my life, because if you can't show compassion to yourself, then you're going to always just struggle to forgive, to fully give it to others. So this is important. Compassion is really important. Um, it's actually another little bit of research that I found and indicates that self-compassion is one of the most powerful sources of coping and resilience that we have available, radically improving our mental and physical well-being. Hmm. So what is the power of self-compassion, So uh, as I said, if you practice the self-compassion, people tend to be happier, more satisfied with their lives. They, as I said, they suffer less with the anxiety and the depression, a better physical health, all these things I just said, and like I said, we usually think of compassion as it applies to others, but we can and we should also show compassion to ourselves. We really should. We should, self-compassion means showing compassion towards ourselves when we suffer and we fail and we feel inadequate. I mean, we've all felt like that at some point. I told you, self-worth and being in the gutter and the pit. I mean, I've been there. So self-compassion of others, as it also offers several mental and benefits as well as physical health. Uh, so, like I said, if it reduces anxiety and related depression and stuff. Well, that's good in itself right there, just to practice this, because there's a lot of people suffering both of those issues, anxiety and you know and self I'm sorry, and depression. Depression's terrible. It's go look at the stats of that online. I'm going to actually do one of my podcasts down the road about depression, because a lot of people bring it up to me. I just had a great conversation with a friend the other day at a local establishment, and he got in a big conversation about depression. He was in one. Um, so let's kind of understand depression. Let's talk about that for a second, even though I'm going to do a podcast on it. Um, like the world has a serious problem with this. So depression is more than you know, it's more than a passing about sadness or dejection or feeling down in the dumps, or it can leave you feeling continually burdened, you know, and it can take the joy just right out of you. And you know, it, it's brutal. I mean, I did a lot of reading on this. So you can find out there's many effective ways you can treat this stuff, that can lighten your mood. You know, I say strengthen your connections with loved ones. I think that's the best way to go. Um, you know, find find satisfaction and interest in hobbies and things like this. It's just going to it'll make you feel better again. Some people, turn to medication, and I'm not a big I don't practice or condone a lot of the medicines that are out there or that people get on, but in some cases, people need it. I know when I talked, it's funny, I just mentioned that I was talking to another gentleman about maybe a month ago, and he's on medication. He told me, he goes, listen, I need it. I'm like, hey man, if it works for you and it's not making you more depressed, then absolutely, that you talk to your doctor. I mean, I'm just, I'm just giving advice. But um in his book though, The Mindful Path of Self-Compassion, that how Harvard psychologist, Christopher Germer, I talked about him early, he suggested those five um things to practice. And you know I think they're good. And I think the when he says practice mindfulness, like, have a good positive, attitude. And I think the last one that I stated before, and the five things he said, I think that one was really powerful. So I'm going to go into a couple little stories about compassion. So my son, and I can talk about my own personal family and stuff in here, but I have my youngest son. I'm going to tell you about a story. It's really important how we raise our children. We all know that, but um, if they see us not being compassionate or not being an example, they feed off it. They feed off whatever they see and they witness. So this is you know, this is a personal story about a young man, and my young son Ben. He was very small at the time. So he asked me one day after school. He goes, "Hey, Dad, can I go to my friend's house and but I need a ride there. He lives across the town." I said, "Yeah, sure." But of course I said yes. But I always wanted to meet the parents. Any parent that my kid was going to be going over to the house. It's just the way it was a mandatory thing. We would never let our kids go somewhere we didn't know the people, or at least got to meet them. And so I said, I need the phone number. And I called, and the mom answered, and I said, "Hey, my son Ben wants to come over. I'd like to introduce myself to you." And so she said, "Cool." She came out when I pulled up, and the boys ran off. And she said, "Hey, she introduced, she was a really nice lady. She says, I just want to tell you, that your son Ben is just an incredible, incredible boy." I said, "I know, he's great." And she said, "No, he saved my son's life." I was like taken back. I said, "Really?" She said, "My son hated, I mean, school so bad he was terrified to go every single morning for weeks and weeks and weeks." She said he woke up extra early, and he just sat there and cried for hours, begging her, "Do not send me there. Don't send me to school. Do not send me to school." He just hated it. He had no confidence. He was scared to be picked on. He was just petrified. He wouldn't talk to anybody, not even his teachers. Teacher said he was like silent. So she's telling me this, and she said Ben went over to him one day, and she saw him sitting lonely by him. Ben saw him sitting lonely in the back of the room in a classroom. He always sat in the back, and Ben went over to him and he just said, "Hey, you want to be my friend? I'm Ben." That's all he said to him. And the kid just looked. The kid, looked at him, and she said his eyes must have lit up because he was like, "What?" And Ben said, "You want to be my friend?" And the kid immediately became friends. And she said from that day on, Ben took him under his wing. He couldn't wait to finish his breakfast for her to take him to school. He wanted to go every single morning. And I was so proud of him when she told me that. I was like, brought tears to my eyes. I'm like, wow. So small acts of kindness and compassion, my friends, it's all it takes. And that's all Ben had to say, that one line. Would you want to be my friend? I'm Ben. It's pretty cool. So, and then here's another story. I don't know if you watch Shark Tank, but they have several different sharks that come on the tank. There's one guy. His name is Daniel Lubetsky. Danielle Lubetsky. He's got an accent. You probably you probably seen him on the show. He's the CEO of the Be Kind bar. It's like those little energy bars or protein bars. And he's on a mission to make the world a little kinder with one snack at a time. That's his, like, one of his sayings. So he's the maker of delicious and nutritious foods. I'm going to read a couple of things here. Be Kind. He created a new healthy snacking category with the introduction of its first fruit nut bars in 2004. So he was born the son of Holocaust survivor, and he grew up with stories from his father about his life in the concentration camps. So his father would tell him all these stories. So there's a video you can actually see to hear Lubetsky, actually, the recount of his father's, like, some of the stuff his father's told him on some of these stories about his father told him one specific story, the video of the starvation and the unexpected act of kindness he got from a German soldier. So that's what inspired this guy from that exact incident. So since hearing that story, he made it his life's work to build this company, and that's kind of its core. So he inspired people to live a kind life, and part of the goal is to uphold the company's core values. Lubinsky actually shared some of the principle for incorporating kindness and empathy into. He tells you how to implement it into your own, like, corporate culture, and he writes this in his first book. So he's do the kind thing. Um, I guess it went on sale by Ballantine Books on sale March 31st. So it's called Do the Kind Thing, and he explains these ways you can implement this into your life, or your into your own corporate culture. So Lubensky chose four of his tips for a kind culture to share with USA Today's readers ahead of his book's release. So these are four things that he wanted to share. He said, give feedback in a productive way, not a personal way. The ideal is to build a culture of healthy discussion. I'm reading this off the story about Lubinsky. The ideal is to build a culture of healthy discussion with everyone's ideas that will be valued. And that kind, we want everyone to be comfortable, challenge my or anyone else's ideas without ever feeling or making someone else feel that questioning is a personal attack. Team members are expected to provide honest feedback to others. Our rule of thumb is to say whatever you need to say to the person affected. Some people are uncomfortable critiquing others, and even when it's done with the other person's growth in mind, but shrinking from the task of proving candid feedback ends up hurting the team member more. Setting a precedent of open and honest communication helps minimize backroom gossip, and in turn, it lays the groundwork for a culture of trust, loyalty, and professional development. That's what he promotes. I think it's pretty cool. And I actually heard him. How I researched this. I was watching Shark Tank one day, and I just remembered. I remember the Kind Bar, but I remember there was an episode, and sometimes they get emotional, and the person that was on there, um, the show that day, made him come up with a story. And he said, I created my bar because of my dad, and because he was a kind man, and he had so much compassion for others. And I remember he said that I said I have to research what this bar is about, what the name is about, and that's how I found this information. It's pretty cool. So if I'm going to talk about compassion, I do have to talk about one person that when I just see his face or I see videos of him or hear his name, it's the definition. You could put him in the definition of compassion. It's Judge Caprio. If you guys don't know him, he's the judge from Cotton Providence. And I know a lot about him, or I watched him a lot because, as I said, the gentleman, my friend who found helped me start the Music Gives thing, he was the producer of the show, the original show, and Judge Caprio actually did. When I started my nonprofit, I talked about this before, Music Gives. Judge Caprio did a personalized video to my grandson Rogan and our family, and it touched my heart, and he'll be in my heart forever. He's the most. It was such a compassionate video, and you can tell he meant it. And this guy did this out of the kindness of his heart. He didn't do it. I didn't have to. John, my buddy John, just asked him to. So, um, I just wanted to say that about Judge Caprio. He's just the man whose words just it's cracked me wide open. So I'm going to share uh, a couple of things. He recently passed, and at the funeral they played this speech. It hit me very hard, and I'm gonna find the speech and just post it in the comments or whatever on the in the not the comments after when you on this video. What do you call it? The description. I'm gonna post the link so you can go and actually um, you can see this that was played, the speech that from his funeral. And so me talking about it it's not gonna justify it. You actually have to see it. I am gonna be posting 3 videos, 3 links in the description. I'll tell you what the other two later are. So these are a couple that really stood out to me. Um, let's see. This is all from Judge Caprio. Um, where is it? A couple of quotes. I'm trying to look through my notes here. Okay, here it is. Um, one of the things he said. What if we? I think he said once. What I think this is a quote from him. What if we all led with compassion first? What if we listened before we judged? Now, he's a judge. What if we forgave as much as we condemned? So these are a couple of quotes from him. One thing he said is, "What the world truly needs now is love, pure, sweet, and boundless." It's a direct quote from him. Another direct quote. "You don't need special qualifications, unlimited resource, or perfect circumstances to make a difference. You just need a heart willing to love and hands willing to help, even in the smallest ways." That's direct from this awesome judge. And then here's a couple of quotes. I know there's a few of them, but I found there's so many of them out there that I'm glad there's a ton of memes with these quotes. But these are all ones that I've seen or heard or I mean I read or wrote down. Sometimes these are all direct quotes. "Sometimes the best judgment is not in the book, it's in your heart." Another one. You never lose by being kind. You only leave behind something beautiful." Another one. "Every small act of kindness creates a better world and a better me." This guy's awesome. Another one. "Kindness is one of the gifts that costs nothing but means everything. Give it freely. Give it freely." Another one. "We rise by lifting others." Another quote. "Your children will become who you are, so be who you want them to be." Another quote. "You don't need power or a title to make the world better, just compassion and courage to act on it." These are all direct quotes from Judge Caprio over his beautiful career and his life. Another one. Giving possessions a quiet power. When you give, no, giving possessions a quiet power. When you give, you uplift others and yourself because giving fosters connection. Think about that. That's freaking awesome. Another one. "Come up here." Do you remember that quote when he would tell people, "Come up here," and he'd make the kids come up, sit on his next to him on the bench and make decisions with him? He made it so it didn't feel like like you're in a jail or something. He made it like a courthouse feel like, okay, we're going to be compassionate here. And here's another one from him. "Every small act of kindness I give creates I said this one, I think, a better world and a better me." Um, what was the other one here? Oh, "Justice should be tempered with mercy. The law is not just about rules. Sometimes the best judgment is not in the book. Like this is the one I said earlier. I said I wanted to repeat this one. Sometimes the best judgment's not in the book; it's in your heart. You know, I mean, these are all like direct quotes from it. Just freaking awesome. There's so many of them. I think I read enough. I think you get the point. But you know, um, we may be cracked at times, but we're not. Like I said in both of my other episodes, we're not broken. So if Judge Caprio, showed us anything, it's that the cracks are where compassion and light get in. That's kind of my little intro or my outro in this podcast. I say that, and it kind of when I wrote it and I decided to use it and I hear it, I'm like, that's Judge Caprio. So let's talk about compassion that we give to children and pets. Yes, we're going to talk about pets and we're going to talk about children. Like this, there's something about when you see a child suffer, when children, children suffer in general, it hits us harder than anything else, doesn't it? I'll talk about little Rogan, my grandson who had the brain tumor when we started Music Gives. Um, Everybody reached out that day. That's how I started my organization. Everybody just reached out with so much compassion for the family and for him. He was fighting a brain tumor, and it was just to see the how people stepped up. And I think it was, I think a lot had to do because he was a child. It wasn't just that. We have a lot of great family and friends, but that stepped up for us, that would no matter what. But I think him being a little child, it just really, really escalated, I think, so think about this. Think about one child in your life or your family, or just even another child in general that you've had compassion for. I bet you can all say, "Yep, this guy or that guy or this one or that one or this girl or this kid." It's often the same with animals. Like we love our pets. We call them family. We would sacrifice a vacation or would pay extremely high, ridiculous vet bills if we knew, if we knew our pet was in distress in any way. We wouldn't even think twice about it. You know, and even knowing the outcome of the operation or whether they always, they need testing and blood and all that. We don't even know that there's no guarantee. We say, yep, just do it. Keep the dog alive or the cat alive or whatever, my animal alive, and it's pretty more so than our own personal needs. We seem to care about our animals. That's straight compassion for another being. So facts. Another I said another being, another live living thing. Facts show that kids who grow up caring for their pets, okay, usually they usually grow into adults. This is like a fact. I'm not just saying this. This is research. They Kids who grow up caring for their pets, I'm looking for the quote here, they usually grow into adults who treat people with more compassion because they practice care, kindness, and responsibility for a life smaller than theirs. This is a fact, isn't that? Your kid, he always wants to take care of the pet. If the pet's hurt, that's a great sign. That means when he gets older and he has to deal with it, he's probably going to be a more compassionate person. So like my mom, I mean, I go back to my personal, and like I said, my one true love of my life. I seen the compassion she had on people. My mom, I could talk about my mom. I could talk story after story how compassionate she was. My mom could have $5 to her name and she would give it to somebody in need. That's how she was. My dad was a very compassionate man too. He had a big heart. My mother was a saint. My father was not a saint. They were like oil and water, but I won't get into that. But he was definitely a compassionate man, and I learned that growing up, and maybe that's why this hits me hard, and I want to do this podcast on it. I believe my immediate family and even my cousins, like our family, I believe we're a very compassionate family. I'm proud to say that, and I'm honored to say that. You know, so um, you just think about that though. I said like think about anybody that you've even showed or maybe lack of compassion that shaped your heart away. Maybe that something happened. You said, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I should have been a little more compassionate with this person." So reflect on that. So I'm gonna move on to the uh, a couple of a different segment here. I'm trying to look at my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. I know I talked about Caprio. I definitely wanted to talk about Judge Caprio. I really did. So Okay, I think I did. Oh, that's what I was looking for. I did have a scripture too. Ephesians 4:32 says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ forgave us." That's what I wanted to do. I know I saw something in my notes when I was reading Judge Caprio's quotes there, and I actually had that right under his quotes. Ephesians 4:32, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as Christ forgave you." So there you go, right from the good old book, the Bible. So, um, and why does compassion even matter? You know, because compassion is, powerful things, and it is four things. It heals relationships. When you meet anger with gentleness, trust grows. It improves, our own well-being, less stress, less anxiety, as I quoted earlier, and more peace. And that's the ultimate goal right here. And it gives purpose. Helping others you know, it pulls you out of your own pain. So, and the fourth thing I wanted to say is it sparks change. Like one small little act can ripple outward and shift the whole community. Like it can really, really shift the whole community. I had many examples on this, but I'd be talking to you for hours if you can, you read the smallest little kind act and things that have grown from it in all communities all through the world. It's just amazing. Me saying that, I'm just trying to think of that quote about the starfish when the kid picked up the starfish and he threw it back in the ocean, and there was like um, thousands of starfish on his feet, and his friend, somebody said to him, "Why are you doing that? You're not going to help all these. You're not going to help them." He said, "Well, help that one." I remember that. It's something like that. It's a meme out there, or a quote. It's pretty funny. Um, but the two videos I wanted to talk about, I told you there's going to be three links in the description on this, and I really want you, when you have a few minutes, click on the one I'm gonna put about Judge Caprio at his funeral, and then there's two YouTube videos out of that, and this is what they're called. The first one is called Empathy. I'm sorry, Glasses of Empathy. It's funny I'm talking about empathy too. I was just talking to another guy I really respect. Um, about the difference between empathy and forgiveness and all this. We were talking about this the other day, but um, this video though, it's called Glasses of Empathy. I'm going to put it out there. It's not long, a few minutes. You have to watch it. And there's another one called Stand in Someone Else's Shoes. It's these two short videos. I really want you to watch them after you listen to this. Okay, so if you got about 5 minutes, just pull your car over while you're driving because you're going to forget to do it, or if you're home or on your phone, just pull it out. You know, just stop whatever you're doing. I'd love you to check these little videos out. Um, what was I going to say? The the they really show like what compassion looks like in everyday life, and how everyone around us is, carrying a story that we can't always see, and it will definitely make you more aware of compassion. So that's why I want you to watch them, and it may even inspire you to maybe be kind today to somebody. I don't know, maybe like something you've never done before. Um, like I said, look what happened in the story of the kind bar story. I mean, one act of kindness can go a long way, man. That German soldier who gave compassion on this guy's dad, linked after that, the father told the son started this company. Now he inspires it and pushes it all through hundreds of people. I don't even know how many employees he has, probably thousands. So that one little act of kindness went a long, long way. So, okay, I think I'm going to close it out here. I don't want to bore you with it. I think we hit on a lot of things. It was kind of just to make you more aware of compassion. So, here's a little challenge I'm gonna give you this week. Don't just feel compassion, act on it. Find one person you can lift up. Listen without judgment, maybe. Send that text. Pay for the coffee. You see these people paying it forward with a coffee. Encourage a friend who's struggling. That's compassion. Just encourage them. You know, compassion is just more than an emotion. It's a choice, man. It's a choice to crack your heart open, man. It really is. It's to let someone else's and it just it's I don't know what to say. Just let someone else's let someone else's healing begin with you. I guess I can just put it that way. That's probably the best way I'm trying to get this out. So like when I was going through my I'm not gonna say the darkest time, a really tough time in my life. It was terrible. I mean, I would literally say, like, I've had deaths and a couple of issues in my life have happened to me, and they'll probably come out in these podcasts because I don't care. I want to help people. I want this to be a positive thing. I'm probably going to say things about my life and experiences, and people are going to be, why is this guy telling us this? Because I don't care. I have nothing to hide, and I want to help people. And if I can help somebody through my experiences or anything I can do, even if it's one person, I don't care. And I'm going to tell you what I meant by before, like about being, if about acts of compassion go a long way. And I said earlier in the when I started the podcast about how people are coming up to me, I'm getting emails and texts and all this stuff. I had someone come up to me. I'm a musician, so those of you who don't listen to any of the other podcasts, I was at a gig. I was sitting on my chair and I was messing with the iPad. I was getting ready to go back on, and somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, you got a second?" I said, "Sure." I said, but I was just going. I said, "Oh, when you're done." So like later in the night, I still seen this person there, and I walked up to them, and they said to me, "Hey, I listened to your podcast on forgiveness." I was like, "Okay." I was expecting criticism or whatever, constructive or whatever. And they said, "I haven't talked to my son in probably 15 years, and I'm going to call him tomorrow." I was like, "What?" Said a few things you said in there really made me think, and I think the time is due. 15 years. So I came home and I was talking to somebody I really love. I talk to frequently, and I said, "Listen, this is what happened." And they were like, "What?" I said, "So it's working." It made me, and I talked to somebody else just 2 days ago, and he said, um, he's the guy I was talking to about empathy, and he said, that story you just told about that. He goes, then this is all worth it. It's already been worth it. I said, it really has. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. And I want to talk about when I was going through my last episode of my darkest moment, I had people reach out to me, and I don't want to mention their names, but I have like five probably solid go-to people. I have a lot of people who, you know, these people, I'm serious, like reach out to me every day, pretty much almost every day. And they pulled me up and helped me and didn't judge me. And I couldn't love them more. They're just great people. And I still talk to them every day because I'm not out of the woods yet. I'm like you, and I'm like everybody else. I struggle with depression and anxiety and all stuff we got going on in our life. I'm the same kind of guy. So I just want these to be positive. I go back and listen to these and try to. They actually a couple of times I've listened to them like this has actually helped me. I'm gonna call this person that person. So anyway, I also like. I was at I wanted to say one more thing about compassion. And like I said, I don't want this to be a religious broadcast, but I'm not afraid. Jesus is number one in my life, and I'm not afraid to talk about him, and I'm not afraid to quote scriptures. And like I said, if it offends you or you want to skip over it, or you think I'm a nut, it's fine. Just listen. If maybe something else will help you in this. You don't have to listen to it if you don't want to, but I encourage you to. Um, but I was at one gig, and I was talking to two people, a boyfriend and girlfriend, awesome people, and they kind of knew my situation, and they heard me. I was kind of crying out to them while I was spilling my guts, and she looked at me and said, "Can I pray for you right now?" And it was among chaos and everything, and I said, "Absolutely." And we both held hands, and I'm sorry, the three of us held hands, and she said, "Amazing prayer." And then she said, "Do you have anything to say?" And I said, "I do." And I prayed, and it was an amazing feeling. I said, and after I got done with it, I felt great. And I said, that was such an act of compassion by her, that she was just, why she didn't have to do that, and I thought it was just awesome of her. So anyway, we're going to end with this. I'm going to end it right here. Thank you for joining me on Cracked Open. I'm going to leave you with one little thing. Sometimes the best judgment is not in the book. It's in your heart. Judge Caprio. That's the quote. So be compassionate, be kind. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. This is Cracked Open, where the truth always rises. Until next time, remember, your integrity is your legacy. Treat others well. Treat others as you want to be treated yourself, because karma has no favorites. It's not a cliche. So stay true, stay kind, keep walking forward, always forward, never backward, with integrity, as life cracks you open. Have a great one, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode of Cracked Open. I love you guys, and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Cracked Open. If today's episode spoke to you, please share it with someone who might need a little light in their own dark season. Remember, even in brokenness, there's beauty waiting to be found. Every crack is a place where the light can shine through. Until next time, stay true, stay hopeful, and keep your heart open.